On this weekend's weekend preview, the AFL Top 3 clash for the ages, a surfing hometown triumph, and the Super Netball run for the finals. Let's get right into the episode. Welcome to the Sports Playbook. I'm Daniel. Here's the week in sport and everything that is coming up this weekend. So let's not waste any time and get into this week's big stories. In surfing, Steph Gilmore wins her 7th Gold Coast Pro, and it comes 21 years after Gilmore won her very first as a wildcard back in 2005. And for Steph Gilmore, this is her 34th tour victory, and she mentioned post the Gold Coast Pro that she has a lot more in the tank to keep going on the World Tour. Steph has had a 2-year absence from the World Championship. And in the men's event, Queensland home hero Ethan Ewing also won the final to win his very first tour event since 2003. In rugby league, Jahreem Bula has re-signed with the West Tigers. The West Tigers star fullback has committed to the club for the long term. Bula has just signed a deal to stay at the West Tigers until 2030. And why this is so important is because it shows Bula has confidence in the West Tigers and what they are building and are continuing to build. This re-signing news comes off the back of a massive week for the West Tigers. Both Taylor and Terrell May have also re-signed with the club on multi-year deals respectively. Whilst Jahreem Bula will be leaving the club at the end of the 2027 season, Tiger Town is humming right now, and all the players have bought into the culture that coach Benji Marshall is instilling in this club. Exciting things from the West Tigers. In athletics, Australia has a race meet to remember in Botswana. In the men's relay for the 4x400 metre event, the team claimed a bronze medal, and the men's 4x100 metre team event, they equalled the national record, finishing 4th in the final behind the US, South Africa and Germany. And in the women's 4x400 metre team event, they unfortunately didn't make the final, but they did run a season best to finish 2nd in their qualifying race. And in Formula 1, could we see the reintroduction of V8 engines? Over the Miami Grand Prix weekend, the FIA president has mentioned several times that F1 needs to make a return to V8 engines. For Formula 1, they have not seen V8 engines since 2013. Since this point, Formula 1 has had V6 engines in the car. The president of the FIA is pushing for the regulations to be updated in either 2030 or 2031. But the timing of this news is quite interesting. Formula 1 is 4 races into a new power regulation, V6 engines and a 50-50 split between hybrid and internal combustion engine. But F1 has not had glowing reviews about this. However, it's not as easy as saying the FIA president wants to change the rules. What the FIA need to do is to convince the engine manufacturers, such as Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari, and to push for these changes to be in 2030. So will it happen? We'll have to wait and see. In rugby union, an Anzac Day test is on the cards. It appears after years of negotiation and dead ends, a Bledisloe Cup test between the All Blacks and the Wallabies could become a reality as soon as 2027. This all comes off the back of recent board meetings with the New Zealand Rugby Board. And whilst it is not confirmed, it appears likely that either Brisbane or Perth are the more favoured locations for this Anzac Day test. The reason being is Sydney and Melbourne already host NRL and AFL fixtures separately. At the moment, it seems likely Brisbane is the favourite of those two options for that test match. So when will this game happen? It won't be on Anzac Day, but it will be on the eve, April 24th. Those are your major storylines from this week. So with that, let's get right into the Sports Playbook Talking Point of the Week. This is the Talking Point. Each week, I pick one story that deserves more than a headline. And this week, it's the AFL. Elijah Holland and AFL's strong stance. As of Tuesday, the 5th of May, Carlton has been fined $75,000 from the AFL, and this comes after Carlton allowed Elijah Holland to play in the round 6 game against Collingwood. For the AFL, they have said they would like to create stronger guidance for players' psychological fitness to play. And for the AFL, they have said all clubs will need to employ a full-time psychologist or an equivalent. The fine that Carlton will need to pay will go straight to AFL's mental health partner, and that is Headspace. And for Headspace, they support youth mental health. The reason why this story matters is because we don't want to see other AFL players, or in fact any players of any sporting code, go through what Elijah did. Elijah is a young man who is playing professional football as his career. But it's important to remember at the end of the day that Elijah is just a human being. We hope that Elijah is getting the support he deserves at this time and wish him the best of luck in his recovery. We are now up to the weekend preview. So what's on for this weekend? Well, let me give you some games and matchups to look forward to. In netball, the West Coast Fever will take on the Adelaide Thunderbirds. And this one is not on Saturday or Sunday. It's a Friday night clash at 8 p.m. and it's a top 4 clash between two sides. For the West Coast Fever, they are currently sitting third in the Suncorp Super Netball standings. For the Adelaide Thunderbirds, they are sitting second. It's an important time for Super Netball as they rarely hold a Friday night time slot. And there's two things to look out for in this game. Ramilda Aiken-George, the West Coast Fever shooter, will equal the all-time record for National Netball League games played. That record is currently held by Kath Cox at 254 games. Massive congratulations to Ramilda Aiken-George. And the second milestone here is Thunderbirds defender Shamira Sterling-Humphrey. For Shamira, she will celebrate her 100th National League match. Congratulations to Shamira Sterling-Humphrey. In the second key matchup in the AFL, it's Fremantle taking on Hawthorn. That's on Thursday, the 7th of May at 10 past 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. This is another top of the table clash as Fremantle sit second and Hawthorn sit third. For both sides, they have strong form heading into the contest. For Fremantle, they are coming off the back of a victory against the Western Bulldogs. For Hawthorn, they just secured a draw after the siren against Collingwood. But the one thing to consider for Fremantle is they've had 3 consecutive 6-day breaks between games. Whilst they are sitting pretty well in second place, this would take a toll on any team, especially when Fremantle flew out of Melbourne at 3 a.m. after they beat the Western Bulldogs. One to watch in this matchup. And in the third matchup in Rugby League, the Sea Eagles take on the Brisbane Broncos. For the Sea Eagles, they currently just sit in the top 8 as Kieran Foran, the new coach, has ignited this team with passion. For the Broncos, they have done well to stay in 9th position considering the amount of injuries to their team. For Manly, they will welcome back their halfback in Jamal Fogarty, which means Joey Walsh will return to the 6-man bench after his impressive display against the Penrith Panthers. For the Broncos, they will be encouraged by their fight back against the Sydney Roosters, but they'll have to do it without Katoni Staggs, who is suspended. And for the Brisbane Broncos, there is a chance that Ben Hunt could be chasing an early return from his knee injury. Ben Hunt has been added to the reserve bench, one to watch to see if Ben plays. Before I go, one thing I'll personally be watching this weekend is in the netball. It's the New South Wales Swifts taking on the Sunshine Coast Lightning. In particular, the battle between Grace Wecke and Courtney Bruce. The game itself is a must-win for either team. The Sunshine Coast Lightning sit 5th and just on the fringe of the top 4. For the New South Wales Swifts, they currently sit 7th and they need to win to stay in finals contention. They are 2 wins off the top 4 and they need results to go their way. But the battle, Grace Wecke, Courtney Bruce. Whilst they've only faced each other a couple of times in Suncorp Super Netball, these two always have tightly contested matchups. Wecke will be looking to gain confidence over Bruce, while Bruce will look to bring some niggle into the contest to upset Wecke. This could be the matchup that decides the game. but it will also come down to the feeds for the New South Wales Swifts to help support Wecky, and that will come through the likes of Grace White, Matty Proud, and Taylor Fraser. So I will personally be watching this game, and I can't wait for this battle. That is your sports weekend sorted. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll be back on Monday with a full wrap. So until then, follow the Sports Playbook. We are your go-to for fast sport news without the noise. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.